Welcome back to Tye and Chanel, where we keep it real, raw, and always faith-filled. Tonight's story? Let me tell you, it's the kind of betrayal that shakes you to your core. Imagine giving your all to someone, your love, your time, your money, only to find out they've been living a whole other life behind your back. This isn't just messy, it's devastating. And the way it all came out, Chanel, they're not ready for this one.
Tye, you're not lying. Sis, if you're watching, let me just say this up front. What you've been through is the kind of hurt that changes you. It's the kind of pain that makes you question everything. Your relationship, your choices, and even yourself. But here's what I want you to know. The fact that you're still standing, still trying to figure out how to move forward, that's strength. And tonight, we're not just breaking down this story. We're going deep, layer by layer, because this one, y'all better buckle up.
And for those of you watching, we want you to think about this as we dive in. Have you ever been blindsided by someone you trusted? How did you handle it? Because the sister's story, it's going to hit home for a lot of y'all. Let's get into it.
Here's the letter she sent us. Dear Tye and Chanel, I don't even know where to start because my world feels like it's falling apart. I'm 30, successful, and confident, and I thought I had my life together. I've worked so hard to build a good life, and I've been trying to grow as a person, to be calmer, to not let my emotions get the best of me. But last night almost made me throw all of that out the window. My boss invited me to a family dinner. She's been such a good mentor, and I thought this was her way of letting me into her world. I went all out. I bought a new outfit and was ready to make a great impression. The evening started off beautifully. Her family was so warm and welcoming, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was in a good place. But then, halfway through dinner, the front door opened. In walked my husband, holding hands with another woman, with 2 kids running behind them. My boss smiled and said, "Oh, there's my sister and her husband." Her husband. My husband. He saw me, and the look on his face told me everything I needed to know. My blood went cold. I could feel my hands shaking, and my heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it was about to burst. I stood up, walked right over to him, and got in his face. I said, "Boy, you better be grateful there are kids in this room. But best believe, I must see you." Then his wife, had the nerve to look me up and down and say, "Who are you?" I turned to her, took a deep breath and said, "Ask your man. My issue isn't with you, but I need to get out of here before I end up in jail." I shoved past him so hard that his phone and bags fell to the floor. The entire room went silent. Now I don't know what to do. I've been supporting this man financially for most of our marriage, paying the bills, covering his debts, and trying to help him get on his feet. And now, I'm not even sure if our marriage is legal. Was he ever really mine, or has he been lying to me from the start? I'm scared to confront him again because I don't trust myself to stay calm. I've been trying so hard to be better, to grow, but this has me feeling like I'm losing control. Do I tell my boss the truth? Do I confront him? Do I just walk away? Please help me because I feel broken, humiliated, and completely lost.
Sis, I'm going to need a moment because this right here, this is a different level of disrespect. The fact that this man walked into your boss's house fully knowing you were there with his wife and kids, that's not just careless, that's cold-blooded. That level of arrogance tells me everything I need to know about his character. Chanel, how are you processing this?
Tye, let me start by saying this. Sis, you are stronger than most people could ever be. Because let me tell you, I know a lot of women who would have turned that house upside down. The restraint you showed in that moment, that's growth. But that doesn't mean what he did didn't cut you to the core. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a calculated, intentional betrayal. And the fact that you've been carrying him financially this whole time, sis, that's a whole other level of pain. You weren't just his wife, you were his foundation. And he took that for granted.
And let's not skip over the wife. When she looked you up and down and said, "Who are you?" That moment right there, that was the ultimate insult. Sis, you could have let all that anger explode, but instead you hit her with, "Ask your man." That wasn't just a clapback, that was a declaration. But I know inside you were breaking. Chanel, let's break this all the way down, because this isn't just about what happened at that dinner. It's about the years of lies that led up to it.
Sis, let me tell you something. I've been there. I've been the one carrying the relationship, putting my all into someone who didn't deserve it. I've been the provider, the one paying the bills, making sure there's food on the table, covering every single thing while he had the nerve to act like he was doing me a favor just by being there. And at first, I convinced myself it was love. I told myself, he's just going through a rough patch. I'm holding him down because that's what you do when you love someone. But over time, sis, I started to feel the weight of it. And let me tell you, love isn't supposed to feel like a weight. Love isn't supposed to feel like you're doing all the work while the other person just sits there, taking and never giving back. And you know what the hardest part was? When the relationship ended, I wasn't just heartbroken. I was mad. Mad at him for using me, but even more mad at myself for letting it happen. I kept replaying every decision I made, every sacrifice I gave, and I blamed myself for not seeing the red flags sooner. I thought, how did I not notice? How did I let this happen? But here's what I've learned since then. Sis, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you loved someone who didn't know how to love you back. It's not your fault that you believed in someone who didn't deserve your belief. And it's not your fault that you gave your all to someone who didn't value it. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. And let me tell you something else. The fact that you're questioning your worth right now, that's exactly what betrayal does. It makes you feel like you weren't enough. But let me be the one to remind you that this isn't about you not being enough. This is about him not being worthy of the love, trust, and loyalty you gave him. You were enough. You've always been enough. He just wasn't the man who was meant to appreciate it. And sis, let's talk about that moment when you saw him walk in with his wife and kids. The shock, the humiliation, the anger. You had every right to lose it in that moment. But the fact that you didn't, the fact that you chose to walk away instead of letting that anger consume you, that's growth. That's strength. But let me also say this. Just because you held it together doesn't mean you don't deserve to feel what you're feeling right now. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to grieve the life you thought you had. But don't stay there, sis. Don't let his actions keep you in a place of pain, because you deserve so much more than that. You deserve to heal. You deserve to move forward. And you deserve to find the kind of love that pours into you the way you pour into others. And for everyone watching this, let me ask you something. How many of us have been in situations where we gave too much to someone who didn't deserve it? How many of us have carried the weight of a relationship that should have been shared? Drop it in the comments, because sis isn't the only one who's been there. And if you're still carrying that weight, let this be your reminder. It's time to let it go.
All right, Chanel, let me step in, because this is where the faith part comes in. Sis, what this man did to you, it's not just wrong, it's devastating. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you to just get over it, because that kind of pain doesn't go away overnight. It's the kind of hurt that makes you question everything, your worth, your choices, your future. But let me remind you of something. What he did to you says everything about him and nothing about you. And I know right now, you're probably feeling like, whoa, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? But let me flip that question for you. Why not you? Why not let this be the moment that pushes you closer to God? Why not let this be the situation that shows you your own strength? Why not let this betrayal be the thing that frees you from a man who was never meant to have your heart in the first place? The Bible says in Romans 8, verse 28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Sis, that means even this. Even this mess of a situation, God is going to use it for your good. He's going to take the hurt, the betrayal, the heartbreak, and he's going to turn it into something beautiful. But you have to lead him. You have to give him the pain, the anger, the bitterness, and trust him to handle it. And let's talk about forgiveness, because I know that word feels impossible right now. But let me clear something up. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting him off the hook. It doesn't mean excusing what he did. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself. It's about saying, I refuse to let your actions have power over me anymore. And sis, let me tell you something else. Your worth isn't tied to this man, this marriage, or this moment. Your worth comes from God. And let me remind you what God says about you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Psalm 139, verse 14. You are the head and not the tail. Deuteronomy 28, verse 13. You are more than a conqueror. Romans 8, verse 37. That means this situation, it's not going to break you. It's going to build you. And for everyone watching this, let me ask you, how many of us are still holding on to pain, anger, or betrayal from someone who didn't deserve us? How many of us are letting that pain keep us from moving forward? Sis, it's time to let it go. Not for them, but for you, because God has so much more for you, but you can't step into it if you're still holding on to the past.
Sis, this moment doesn't define you. It refines you. God is taking what was meant to break you and using it to build you into someone stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable. Hold on to that, because brighter days are ahead. And remember, God sees you, He hears you, and He's already working on your behalf. Keep trusting, keep walking, and watch how He turns this mess into a message.
All right, y'all, let's hear it. Have you ever faced a betrayal that shook you to your core? Drop your story in the comments or send us an email. Your testimony could be the encouragement someone else needs. To my sis who wrote this, you are stronger than you think, and this is not the end. It's the beginning of something better. Stay prayed up and keep your head high. Until next time, y'all take care. Peace.